seeing this through. We both are.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. Today I'll be discussing Eren and Rick from The Walking Dead and the effect that the mid-season finale for Season 7 had on their respect for each other. I honestly really enjoy Eren as a character and have high hopes for him in the future. Rick, on the other hand, has been a popular fan favorite himself, but sometimes it feels like he almost needs a nod in the right direction. All of that being said, spoilers for anything in the show up to Season 7 Episode 8, Heart Still Beating. I decided to exclude these two from my main review of the episode, and let me get into explaining why. So first off, I definitely enjoy the idea of keeping one topic per video, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Doing it like this keeps everything more organized and easier to find, along with the fact that I feel more comfortable when going into greater detail on one specific topic, as I have more room to breathe in the video. My review for 708 being just over the 35 minutes that it was, there was already so much to discuss in that video alone, it could have went on for forever. And because of this, I felt like breaking off certain side topics and leaving them alone for their own spotlight was a good idea. That being said, let's jump right into where we first see Eren and Rick in this episode, which is actually exactly where we left them off last episode. As Eren and Rick tell each other that they want to be home by the end of today, they look over the Lake of Walkers towards that boat that they found at the end of last episode. Rick offers Eren an out, but Eren actually seems slightly offended by that offer as he wants to stick by Rick's side. Rick doesn't want to put anyone's life at risk, especially if they're leaning against it, but Eren has always been a reliable person, and I honestly wouldn't second guess trusting him in a situation like this. This entire half season has been focusing around how everyone's dealing with Negan, and how they also feel about Rick's decisions in all of this. Everyone has had their own way of dealing with Negan, as we've honestly seen one end of the spectrum to the other. On top of this, because Rick seems to be compliant with Negan's rules, people have to sneak around him and his authority as well. In Eren's case, he really seems to be leaning towards Rick in this situation, and I can really respect that as we later hear where he's coming from. While Eren breaks them off makeshift paddles, they realize that they'll have to use the small boat in front of them as their only option, even though it has bullet holes in it. They could have somehow possibly figured out a more safe and practical way of efficiently clearing out the path through the lake and getting to the boat, but they wanted to use the fastest possible option as they really want to make it back to Alexandria. So with their teamwork and determination, they progressively make their way to that canoe as they take turns killing walkers and paddling. Just as they finally make it to the canoe, to Eren's surprise, an initial walker jumps out of the canoe and shocks him, while a second one actually jumps up and pulls him into the water behind him. And so as Rick crawls into the canoe, he just stands there watching in complete fear of losing someone else in front of his eyes, contemplating if he needs to jump in after him as well. We get a few moments of tension as we see air bubbles, but no Eren. Finally, he emerges as he yells to Rick that he is okay, while also trying to tell himself the same thing.
I'm okay! I'm alright!
Now, they actually spoiled any suspense here for me personally, just because they showed Eren and Rick getting back to Alexandria in one piece and giving the saviors the supplies that they found during one of the trailers for the episode. Either way, this shows the type of crap that Eren is prepared to go through to show his worth, and to prove that his word deserves some type of authority. I'd actually like to see him get involved in another future story arc during Season 7b, and hopefully shine more time in this character's development in general. And as Eren makes his way back onto the canoe with Rick, they both finish paddling it to the boat, barely crawling on it off of the canoe in sheer thankfulness that they're off of that death trap. Personally, I wouldn't have gone near that random body that they crawled onto, but that's just me. Even if something seems dead, you can never be too careful, and honestly, I'd be stabbing in the heads of every single body I came within a close distance of. I can't remember who, but I think it was in either Season 1 or 2 of Telltale's The Walking Dead, someone actually tells Clementine to, better be safe than sorry, and that you should do that, and it's a really good idea. You don't want someone that you think isn't a worry to actually turn out to be a zombie and jump up and bite you, because that honestly has to be one of the most cliche jump scares in a zombie movie.
Can never be too sure with these things. Here, give me a hand.
Anyways, once searching the ship, they find a complete jackpot of supplies, along with a not-so-friendly note left by the previous owner. This is just something completely worthy of shaking your head to, but it's funny how relevant it is to the main story in general this episode. It can be related to pretty much everything happening. Whether it's referring to something vague, such as just living in the zombie apocalypse and surviving in general, or if it can be directed to something more specific, such as Rick and Aaron, or the Alexandrians, possibly Negan, or just the Saviors in general. This simple little note is literally symbolic of everything in the show in its entirety, and it's crazy for me to even say that because sometimes when people are looking for symbolism, they can really be fishing for the answer, you know, but when it comes to this note, you can honestly relate it to so many different scenes and so many different situations of the show. It really just fits well with it in general. And our two survivors, thinking nothing of the note, just put it back to where they found it, and that will come back later on, but enough about that silly piece of paper. Aaron then mentions that there are actual paddles on the boat, and with the wind picking up, that it shouldn't take too long to get to shore. And so once they get back to shore, while they're packing up all the supplies in their truck, Rick starts to explain that he didn't mean to offend Aaron by asking him if he wanted to sit this one out. Rick understands how capable Aaron is, but he doesn't like the idea of risking the lives of his companions just so they can provide for Negan. Rick also knows that people don't necessarily agree with his current decisions as a leader, along with his methods. Because of this, Rick almost felt like Aaron might have wanted to sit out just because of conflicting views. This actually really reminded me of back in episode 704 Service, when Aaron stands up in the church to talk to Rick while he was giving that speech about Negan being in charge. This brief confrontation between the two of them could have possibly caused Rick to suggest that Aaron should stay back, but we know that Aaron set him straight, as Rick doesn't need to worry about Aaron's beliefs and loyalty. Aaron points out how difficult it is for people to come to terms with the idea of being ruled over, especially after living free like how they were before. And as Rick brings up Michonne's personal opinions, Aaron doesn't blame her for not thinking that this is a way to live, but he says that he's doing this so other people don't die, even if it costs him his own life. Aaron is honestly such a pure soul and is such a champ for going through all of that bullshit on the lake just to prove that he is mature enough to understand the situation at hand and where he's in all of it, even if he doesn't like it. Aaron's following lines are in reference to the name of the episode, Heart Still Beating, as he explains how everything nowadays is about keeping you and your loved ones alive.
It's hard committing to a choice like this after living how we did, free. I get it. But either your heart's beating or it isn't. Your loved ones' hearts are beating or they aren't.
This is also essentially the core of keeping humanity alive in general. As long as people are mature enough to understand that they need to be strong and brave when the time comes, at the end of the day, they are still allowed to act civilized and enjoy their lives for what it is. Now with all of that out of the way, let's jump to when Aaron and Rick actually make their way back to Alexandria with their scavenged supplies. Rick finally arrives at the gates, and to his surprise, the Saviors are the ones opening them once again. Rick immediately asks where Negan is, wanting to storm off and find him, but gets told to stay and wait while the Saviors unload the supplies that they have been waiting for. And as they open up all the supplies, they find that note that the original owner left for the scavengers to find on the boat. So it's actually hilarious that the note was unintentionally passed on to the Saviors as well. Now, considering how well it all relates to them, the Saviors didn't find it as hilarious, which sadly results in Aaron wrongfully getting beaten up. The Saviors are literally so selfish and heartless, as it seems that all they care about is the fact that they had to stand there all day waiting for Aaron and Rick to get back. They don't even think about or consider how easy they have it, being given the luxury of standing around all day in the sun, while Aaron and Rick worked their asses off providing for them. And let me just say, did they ever work hard to provide, just like Spencer did, but instead of getting praised like Spencer, at this point the Saviors are just looking for anything that they can use as an excuse to attack them. These Saviors aren't aware of the immense effort that Aaron and Rick actually put into getting these supplies, and they're just angry that it took them so long to get it. And whether the Saviors use these opportunities to unleash anger built up from getting bullied themselves back at the sanctuary, or if they just have an anger problem and love causing pain, they beat the holy hell out of Aaron while Rick watches. After a horrible beating against their supply truck, Aaron is left coughing up his own blood on the ground as Rick helps him up and starts walking away with him. And all that Aaron does is use this to prove his point earlier, as all he has to say to Rick is, "My heart's still beating."
My heart's still beating, right?
As they do this, they hear Rosita's gunshot, which connects the episode together as all the separate timelines shown throughout the episode merge. Rick has done everything he can to save his people. He does his best trying to convince everyone to fall in line, along with organize everyone to provide for Negan and keep him happy. But when he realizes that his people are still dying one way or another and that it won't work, he feels completely lost and defeated once more. Hopefully for the last time. He was out for days scavenging some crazy supplies, risking his life, and he does his job. He gets back home to find that his friend is getting jumped for no reason, along with 2 deaths due to 2 failed assassination missions and someone trying to betray Rick himself. He can't control his people, and he now understands why. No matter how much he tries to explain things to his people or command them, he'll never have 100% of them agree with Negan's rules. It doesn't matter how much Rick scavenges for Negan either, because one way or another his people will find a way to dig them a deeper hole.
And however much you scavenged, it's not good enough, because you're still in serious hole after today.
And on top of that, considering how horribly Aaron gets beat up over nothing, it once again proves to Rick that they are never safe. Even if they do everything right and honor their side of the arrangement, it's always possible for the Saviors to just not do the same. This is shown by them purposely finding reasons to cause a conflict with Aaron and Rick, as I said earlier. And honestly, this realization will probably make Rick agree with Richard at the Kingdom when he meets him there in Season 7B, and it really makes me think about what Richard said to Carol and Morgan in this same episode. If you guys would like to know more about that conversation between those 3 characters, I actually have a full video discussing that as well. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Feel free to hit that like button if you've enjoyed anything I've discussed today. I appreciate you all for watching and listening into what I had to say, but how do you guys feel about all of this? Your opinions and theories are always welcome in the comments section below, but besides that, I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out.